Once upon a time, upon a Christmas Eve, old Scrooge sat busy in his counting house.
And Merry Christmas, Uncle.
It was the voice of Scrooge's nephew.
Bah, humbug.
Christmas a humbug. Uncle, you don't mean that, I am sure.
I do. If I had my will, every idiot who goes around saying Merry Christmas on his lips should be buried with his own pudding. He should.
Uncle!
Nephew, keep Christmas in your own way and let me keep it in mine.
Keep it, but you don't keep it.
Let me leave it alone then. Much good may it do you. Much good has it ever done you.
I have always thought of Christmas as a good time, a kind, forgiving, cheerful, pleasant time. And therefore, Uncle, though it has never put a scrap of gold or silver in my pocket, I believe that it has done me good and will do me good. And I say, God bless it.
Good afternoon.
And I'll keep my Christmas humor to the last. So, a Merry Christmas, Uncle.
Good afternoon.
And a Happy New Year.
Good afternoon.
His nephew left the room without an angry word, but the clerk, in letting Scrooge's nephew out, had let two other people in.
At this festive season of the year, Mr. Scrooge, we like to give the poor who suffer greatly at this time. A few of us are trying to raise a fund to buy the poor some food and clothing. How much shall I put you down for?
Nothing.
You wish to be anonymous?
I wish to be left alone. Since you ask me what I wish, gentlemen, that is my answer. I do not make myself merry at Christmas. I can't afford to make poor people merry. I help support the prisons and workhouses. They cost enough. Those who are badly off must go there.
Many can't go there, and many would rather die.
If they would rather die, they had better do it.
The hour of closing the counting house arrived. Scrooge left the counting house and went home to bed. Now it is a fact that there was nothing at all particular about the knocker on the door of his house, except that it was very large. And yet Scrooge, having his key in the lock of the door, saw on the knocker, not a knocker, but Marley's face.
Scrooge. Scrooge.
Marley's face with a dismal light about it, like a bad lobster in a dark cellar. As Scrooge looked at this, it was another knocker again. He said, and closed the door with a bang. The sound resounded through the house like thunder. Every room above and every cask in the whitewashing cellar below appeared to have a separate peal of echoes of its own. Scrooge was not a man to be frightened by echoes. He fastened the door and walked across the hall and up the stairs. Up Scrooge went, not caring about his very dark. Darkness is cheap, and Scrooge liked it. Quite satisfied, he closed his door, locked himself in, double locked himself in, which was not his custom. Thus secured against surprise, he put on his dressing gown and slippers and his nightcap, and sat down before the very low fire to take in his oatmeal. As he threw his head back in the chair, his glance happened upon a bell, a disused bell, that hung in the room. It was with great astonishment and with a strange dread that as he looked at this, he saw the bell begin to swing. Soon it rang loudly. So did every bell in the house. This was succeeded by a clanky noise, deep down below, as if some person were carrying a heavy chain over the cask in the whitewashing cellar. Then he heard the noise much louder, on the floors, then coming up the stairs, then coming straight toward his door. It came through the heavy door, and the ghost passed into the room before his eyes. And upon its coming in, the dying flame leaped up, as though it cried,
Ebenezer Scrooge.
I know it! Marley's ghost!
What do you want with me?
Much.
Who are you?
Ask me who I was.
Who were you then?
In life, I was your partner, Jacob Marley.
The ghost sat down on the opposite side of the fireplace, as if he were quite used to it.
You don't believe in me?
I don't.
Why do you doubt your senses?
Because little thing affects them. You may be an undigested bit of beef, a blot of mustard, a crumb of cheese, a fragment of an underdone potato. There's more gravy than of grave about you, whatever you are.
The spirit raised a frightful cry.
Oh!
Mercy! Why do you trouble me? Why do spirits walk the earth? And why do they come to me?
It is required of every man that the spirit within him should walk among his fellow men and travel far and wide. And if that spirit does not forfeit life, it is commanded to do so after death. My spirit never walked beyond my counting house, and worry, journeys lie before me.
Scrooge was very much dismayed to hear the ghost going on at this rate, and began to quake exceedingly.
I'm here tonight to warn you that you have yet a chance and hope of escaping my fate. You will be haunted by 3 spirits. Expect the first tonight at 1. Expect the second one at 2. The third at 3.
Scrooge tried to say humbug, but stopped at the first syllable. And being from the fatigues of the day, or his glimpse of the invisible world, or the conversation of the ghost, or the lateness of the hour, he went straight to bed, without undressing, and fell asleep on the instant. When Scrooge awoke, the church clock told a deep, dull, hollow sound. 1. Light flashed up in the room upon the instant, and the curtains of his bed were drawn aside by a strange figure, like a child.
Are you the spirit, sir, whose coming was foretold to me?
I am.
Who and what are you?
I am the ghost of Christmas past.
As the words were spoken, they passed through the wall and stood in the busy roads of the city. All of the shops were dressed with Christmas decorations. The ghost stopped at a certain warehouse door and asked if Scrooge knew it.
No, I worked here.
They went in. At the sight of an old gentleman sitting behind such a high desk that if he'd been 2 inches taller, he must have knocked his head against the ceiling. Scrooge cried in great excitement.
Why, it's old Fizzywig! Bless his heart, it's Fizzywig, alive again!
Hello, Ebenezer.
A living and moving picture of Scrooge's former self, a young man, came briskly in, accompanied by his fellow apprentices.
My boys, no more wait tonight. Christmas Eve, Christmas. Ebenezer, let's have the shutters up before a man can say, Jack Robinson, clear away, my lads, and let's have lots of room here.
Clear away! There's nothing they wouldn't have cleared away, or couldn't have cleared away, with old Fezziwig looking on. It was done in a minute. The warehouse was as snug and warm and dry and bright a ballroom as you would desire to see upon a winter's night. In came a fiddler with a music book, and went up to the lofty desk, and made an orchestra of it. In came Mrs. Fezziwig, one vast smile. In came their guests, beaming and lovable. They all came in one after another, dancing and clapping to celebrate Christmas. When the clock struck 11, this ball broke up. Mr. and Mrs. Fezziwig, shaking hands with every person as he or she went out, wished him or her a Merry Christmas.
He gave but a small gathering, to make them full of joy. He has spent but a few pounds of your money, 3 or 4 perhaps. Is that so much that he deserves his praise?
It isn't that, Spirit. The happiness he gives is quite as great as if it cost a fortune. Spirit, remove me from this place. Haunt me no longer.
As he struggled with the spirit, he was conscious of being exhausted, and found himself in his own bedroom. He had barely time to roll to bed before he sank into a heavy sleep. Scrooge awoke in his bedroom. The walls and ceiling were hung with living green. Heaped upon the floor, to form a kind of throne, were turkeys, geese, great joints of meats, pigs, long wreaths of sausages, and sweets. Upon this there sat a giant figure, wearing a glowing torch.
Come in, and know me better, man. I am the ghost of Christmas present. Look upon me. You have never seen the like of me before. Touch my robe.
Scrooge did what he was told and held it fast. The room and its contents all vanished instantly, and they stood in the city streets upon a snowy Christmas morning. Scrooge and the ghost passed on, invisible, straight to Scrooge's clerks, and on the threshold of the door the spirit smiled, and stopped to bless Bob Cratchit's dwelling with the sprinklings of his torch. Then uprose Mrs. Cratchit, preparing for dinner.
taking your father and Tiny Tim so long?
Here they come, Mother.
In came Bob, the father, and Tiny Tim upon his shoulder. Alas, for Tiny Tim, he bore a little crutch and had his limbs supported by an iron frame.
Why, bless your hearts, my dears. And here's your father and Tiny Tim.
A Merry Christmas, my dears.
Master Peter and the two young Cratchits went to fetch the goose, with which they soon returned in high possession.
Come, children. Come take your places at the table. All of you.
Hurrah! Goose and pudding!
Spirit, tell me if Tiny Tim will live.
I see an empty seat at the table, and a crutch without an owner.
No, Spirit.
Scrooge had his eye upon them, and especially on Tiny Tim. But the whole team passed off, and he and the Spirit were again upon their travels. Much they saw, and far they went, and many homes they visited, but always with a happy end. Suddenly, as they stood together in an open place, the bell struck. Three. Scrooge looked about him for the ghost, and it was gone. As the last stroke ceased to vibrate, he remembered the prediction of old Jacob Marley, and lifting up his eyes, beheld a dark figure, draped and hooded, coming in like a mist along the ground towards him.
Ghost of the future, I fear you more than any spirit I've seen. Will you not speak to me?
It gave him no reply, and the hand was pointed straight before them.
Lead on, Spirit. The night is fading away fast, and it is precious time to me, I know.
The Spirit took him to a dark, dirty shop, nearly hidden by heaps of old rags, bottles, and all manner of unknown refuse. An old charwoman slunk into the shop, carrying a heavy bundle which she threw down on the floor in front of old Joe, the rag and bone man. The old man quickly opened the bundle and poked through the items, which looked to Scrooge to be remarkably similar to his own bedclothes.
How much will you give me for these items, old Joe?
Let's see what you have here. His bed curtains. You don't mean you took the one who was still lying there.
And why not?
And his blankets too?
He's not going to need them when he's gone.
The ghost led him to poor Bob Cratchit's house, the dwelling he had visited before, and found the mother and the children seated round the fire. Quiet, very quiet. The noisy little Cratchits were all still as statues in one corner, and sat looking up at Peter, who had a book before him. The mother and her daughters were engaged in needlework, and surely they were very quiet. The mother laid her work upon the table and put her hand up to her face.
It must be near time for your father, my dears. I think he's walked a little slower than he used to these past few weeks. I have known him to walk with dear Tiny Tim upon his shoulder. Very fast indeed. And there is your father at the door.
She hurried out to meet him, and Bob came in. His tea was ready for him, and they all went to greet him with love. Bob was very cheerful with them, and spoke pleasantly to all the family. He looked up at the work upon the table, and praised Mrs. Cratchit and the girls.
You went visit Tiny Tim today, Robert?
Yes, my dear. I wish you could have gone. It would have done you so good to see his beautiful grave. I promised him that I would walk there every Sunday.
Spirit, please take me away from here.
The ghost of Christmas yet to come conveyed him to a dismal, unhappy, destructive churchyard. The Spirit stood among the graves and pointed down to one. Scrooge walked towards it, trembling as he went, and, following the finger, read upon the stone of the neglected grave his own name, Ebenezer Scrooge.
No, Spirit. Oh, no, no, Spirit, hear me. I am not the man I was. I will not be the man I must have been. Why show me this, if I am all past hope? Please tell me I can change my fate by altering my actions. I will honor Christmas in my heart and try to keep it all the year. Oh, tell me I may sponge away the writing on the stone.
Holding up his hands in one last prayer to have his fate reversed, he saw a change in the phantom's hooded dress. It shrunk, collapsed, and shrunk down into a bedpost.
The bed curtains. They're not torn down. They're still here. And I'm still here.
Yes, and the bedpost was his own, the bed was his own, the room was his own. Best and happiest of all, The time before him was his own, to make amends in. He was checking his transport by listening to the church's bells ringing out loud. Running to the window, he opened it and put out his head. No fog, no mist, no night. Clear, bright, stirring, golden day.
What's today?
Cried Scrooge, calling downward to a boy in Sunday clothes.
Eh? What's today, my fine fellow?
Today? Why, Christmas Day!
It's Christmas Day. I haven't missed it. Hello, my fine fellow.
Hello!
Do you know the Poulterers? The next street but one, at the corner?
I should hope I did.
An intelligent boy, a remarkable boy. Do you know whether they've sold the prize turkey that's hanging up there? Not the little prize turkey, but the big one?
What? The one as big as me?
Yes, my boy.
It's hanging there now.
Is it? Go and buy it.
Are you mad? Me? Buy it?
No. No, with my money. Go and buy it, and tell him to bring it here, that I may give them the direction where to take it. Come back with the man, and I'll